All right, bro. We'll get started, man. Listen, we missing our co-host tonight. Uh, you know, the Bleezy himself, Bleezy Rams, is going through something right now with his family. Just gonna say prayers to him. Shout out to my boy. Hope you're doing good, man. Ain't talked to him in a little while. But prayers up for him. I'm gonna keep the show rolling though. Listen, we missed last week. A lot going on, man. Tomorrow's my son's birthday, so this show ain't gonna be too long tonight. It's gonna kind of just chop it up with y'all, just let everybody know a little bit about what's going on. We're gonna keep it sweet, we're gonna keep it simple. Hopefully next week we get back to regular scheduled programming. Listen, we're gonna bring back the top 10 plays. I'm gonna get that done this weekend and hopefully drop that probably about like Wednesday. I'll drop it on YouTube and then I'll share it out. But listen, we're gonna keep it simple, man. Y'all know the podcast 60 for 60. All right. We just gonna chop it up, man. Anybody here? Anybody want to talk about it? We just gonna chop it up. Kind of wanted to do this topic, man. What's the toughest league that you ever played in? I mean, at least for me, I think the MLF was the toughest league that I ever played in. But then again, back in like 2017, 2018, the 5-star out of the NYC, out of the 5 boroughs, that was one of the toughest leagues. It was tough, man. It was in the spring, and it was more like the summer. But it was just crazy because you had so much talent in that league. A lot of dudes was playing like college ball and double duty and playing semi-pro at the same time. So they was playing on the college team and just coming to play semi-pro on the weekends. Shit was crazy. And then you had, we had all kinds of dudes in there from David Gree, to some other dudes that I really didn't even. I'm like Ronnie. Ronnie was a dude that I had played with at Nassau. He ended up playing on the Jets for a little while. He was a D tackle in the league for a little bit. I mean, it was all kinds of. My dude Winston Longden, he played at Stony Brook. He was in that league. Like it was just talent everywhere. And looking now, I think a lot of dudes could probably say like the Den is probably the toughest league that they've ever played in for them dudes that's in the Den right now. But I was talking to my quarterback in the summertime, Juan Rodriguez. He played on a unit, and he was telling me that league, the NEAFL, which was mostly like North Jersey, South Jersey, and Philly, and they had a couple Delaware teams. He said that league was pretty crazy. Um, and it showed because when you looked at the national rankings, like a lot of those teams was in the top 20 in the national rankings at the end of the year. The unit was in the top 10 for a long time. Um, so like I think the Den is even crazier because now you add in teams like Central Penn Hitman, you add in the Knowles, you know, the revamped Jaguars, as they say, um, which is now what are they called, the Jackals. So you got like a lot of talent in that league, and the crazy thing is like the Jackals was one of the most hyped up teams, but they actually struggling at 0-2 start. So it just goes to show you how talented that league really is. Like I've heard of teams like down in Texas. I forgot what the exact league is, but the Texas Red Raiders is in that league. There's a couple other teams that are basically they're semi-pro teams, but in the spring, I believe, in the spring and winter, they convert from a semi-pro team to an arena football team. So you're talking about like true professional athletes. I know there's at least one team down there in Space City where the head coach is an ex NFL running back. Like he played in the league for like 6, 7 years. So, obviously to have that kind of talent, want to be a part of the organization, something has to be going on down there, something competitive to make people want to be a part of it. So it's just kind of crazy how there's leagues all over the place. I know that league with the Virginia Royals is considered a pretty good league. So just wish I had somebody here, kind of talk to me about it. But for me, in my personal experience, I would have to say the 5-star was probably the most competitive league that I played in. And it was really it was like 12 teams. So it was a lot of teams. Um, I think they tried to get it to where everybody played each other at least once, but it wasn't enough time really to do that. So, you played a lot of teams though. You played at least 8 different teams throughout the season. The playoffs was super competitive. It wasn't one of those things like you kind of knew who was going to make it at the end. Yeah, the nose was there. Yeah, the Rebels was there, but you just really didn't know because you didn't know what that path was going to look like. And that's kind of where the Brooklyn Seminoles get their reputation from. I think really the success that they had in that league kind of just carried over. And they had some success before that in MLF, but it wasn't to the quite same standard that they had once they made it to the 5 star and then left the 5 star. Um, and then the success they had in the MLF Elite was kind of crazy too. It kind of just solidified them. But I think today it's like at least in the Northeast right now, it's hands down the Den is the most competitive league right now to play in. Um, and we'll talk about what's going on with some of the other leagues right now. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, I mean, chop that up, man. Chop it up and talk about that. That's something that we probably gonna revisit in the next show. Definitely try to get some guests on and kind of talk about that. But topic two right now, we got a real problem, man. We talk about kind of like the makeup of minor league football, what's holding it back, what's making it great. Why should people be watching? We got a real problem though when it comes to refereeing. So I've personally been in games where where the referee was wasted, man. Like you could smell the liquor on his breath. Like dude just really wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? I was in a game last year where the referee, basically he looked like he was like 16 years old, man. And we staring at the ref and he's standing there with the whistle in his mouth trying to keep a straight face. We staring this dude down like, yo, how old are you? And he's like, oh, I'm 18. Like you 18? He's like, yeah, I just graduated from referee training and he was terrible. Like, and the crazy thing is, I've seen him this year. He's a lot better of a ref now, obviously. But when we first seen him, he was terrible. He threw some terrible calls. He wouldn't throw the flag sometimes, and then when he shouldn't throw it, he would throw it. All of that is just kind of a part of the game. Like that happens. But the problem that we having right now with referees is it's very much you know, the white and black versus the teams right now in the leagues, especially in minor league football right now. The refs feel like they're not safe. Um, the refs aren't respecting this level of football to quite the same degree that they respect other levels. I feel like I have heard referees say during games that they referee at the high school level, they referee in the NCAA, and the badge of honor that they say that with. They kind of say it like, because I refed at the NCAA level, you should respect me. And that's a problem because what that shows is that it shows that they view our level of play underneath that. It's almost like if they refed in the NFL, that's the first thing they would say. They'd be like, man, I refed in the NFL. You crazy? Like, this is easy for me. And the honest truth is, it should be the other way around because what those guys that are reffing fail to realize is there's a lot of NCAA athletes playing in minor league football, and they're not that good. Um, because you're talking about, 17 to maybe 24, 25-year olds on average. You know, when you look at minor league football, you're talking about 17 to freaking 50. Like, as long as you can show up and pay your dues and you can play, so you get all kinds of guys. You get a mixture. You get some really good Division 1 athletes. You get some guys that went to UConn. You get some guys that went to Rhode Island. You get some guys that went to Virginia Tech. They might not have been the best, but they went there and they played and they were a part of that, and they're really talented guys. And then at the same time, you get the high school guys. So that's one part of the referee problem is that they don't respect, our level of the game. But then right now, the problem is that these guys are using a combination of excuses when it's they don't respect what we do. Um, they feel like there's kind of this bad omen that goes with semi-pro football, as they call it, And then you have situations where guys are throwing punches at refs, or guys are getting physical with refs, or just upset and cursing them out and saying things. And now we're starting to see that the refs are pulling away from us. You know, the refs are starting to feel like, maybe we just shouldn't show up. And now we're running into a situation where, we had a situation at IFA where the refs didn't come. There's a lot of back and forth to why the refs didn't come to the game. And again, that's why I started with respect. I feel like, regardless, the refs in the NFL show up. It could be thundering, it could be, you know, Giants versus Philly, and we know how those, games get. We see, people snapping videos on Instagram of people throwing beers and getting into fights, and dudes getting jumped outside in the parking lot, and it's all crazy, and they flipping cars, but the refs still show up. You know what I'm saying? They don't talk about their safety. They in danger there. You know what I'm saying? They make a bad call. You make a bad call in an NFL game and it comes down to it. It might have been a playoff game or a playoff situation. Your life in danger, bro, when you leaving that building. Like, you in some serious danger. But they getting paid a lot of money to do it. I get it, but it goes past it. I think they respect the game. You know what I'm saying? And right now we got a situation where refs just not even showing up to our games. Like, they don't even respect the time, the work, the money that's involved, the effort from the leagues to the teams to the players to be in a location. Like, you got to understand, if you're not really a part of this and you a spectator, you got to understand that a team getting a bus to go to a game is not usual and it's not casual. You know what I'm saying? So it's not usual in the fact that not a lot of teams can even get that to happen. It's not casual in the fact that when you see it happen, it's not like your college program that has their own bus with their name on the side. It's not like the NFL that has the funds to do a partnership with Greyhound. You know what I'm saying? Like, it took a lot for them to get that bus in the first place. So it's not even a casual thing if you see a bus show up. That's what programs like, the Brooklyn Crusaders, the New York Crusaders, they show up with a bus damn near at every game they go to, and you got to give them kudos for that. Programs like, the Shamrocks, those are like the Brooklyn Seminoles. These are programs that they do it the right way. You know what I'm saying? And that's not an easy task. It's not an easy thing to do. So, some of these refs, man, they look at it and they just go, man, it's not the same product. But what they don't realize is it might be a guy that drove 4 hours with his girl and his baby, and his baby is 8 months old, and the trip was crazy, and they had to stop a couple times, and he's doing this because he loves the sport so much. You know what I'm saying? And he's just trying to live out his dream of playing football. Maybe it's at this point for a lot of us, this is like second nature. This is like flexing a muscle. You know what I'm saying? It's like waking up. It's like putting your clothes on to go to work. I got a game on Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just becomes a part of our lifestyle. So, you know, we got guys traveling from all over the place, borrowing money, getting brides, carpooling, you know, setting stuff up a week in advance. Yo, I'm gonna ride with you, this and that. And then at the end of the day, to get to the location and to not have a game because the refs just didn't show up, that's tough because at the end of the day, this is one of those sports that you cannot police yourself. You need a crew of refs in order to play. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like basketball where you could kind of just have one guy out there with a whistle and he could call every foul, and he could line everything up, and it might get chippy, but you could get through the game. Like in football, bro, you need 5 refs. If you don't got 5 refs, the game gonna get out of control. There's too much chaos going on. It's controlled chaos. And the control of the chaos is all in the ref's hands. So, you know, right now we're seeing the implosion of a league happening because of refs, and we're seeing the price of getting a crew of refs on the field go up. I mean, to a point where like the players are already doing the most they can to fund the organizations and make sure that they're able to play on the field. If the price of the refs go up, and I've heard prices like $1,000 for a ref crew, as opposed to, 500, it starts to get out of control. It gets to the point where we're not going to be seeing as much football, and you're gonna have to that the problem is just growing to a place where it's going to get bigger than, just trying to be on the field and have fun. It's going to get to a point where teams are going to have to shut down and dudes are not going to be able to afford to play. And it's just going to really just get crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's really going to get crazy. And then at the end of the day, you give these guys $1,000 and the first fight breaks out on the field and somebody says something crazy and the refs just walk off. And they have the right to walk off, to protect themselves and for their safety, but they walk off and there's no course of action after that. They walk off and and that's the end of the game. $1,000 down the drain. Both teams are SOL. You know, the game can't be counted in certain situations. It gets real. It gets real sticky. So this is a problem that um it goes to every facet of the sport. I mean, from the fans in the crowd to the guy who owns the team. Everybody is responsible for this particular problem because the refs are people. You know what I'm saying? They got families, they got kids, and they want to go ref their game, make their little side money, and go home, at the end of the day. And it's kind of up to us as all the different stakeholders in this, right? We all have a stake in it. The fans have a stake in it, the players, the owners, the league officials, everybody has a stake in this, becoming bigger than what it is right now. And it's really going to take all of us to come together to kind of fix this particular issue because, the league needs to have some kind of contingency plan set in place for when the refs feel like they need to walk away. And there needs to be some kind of agreement. Um, because it's not like the NFL where they just gonna wait it out for forever. We don't have the state troopers standing on the sidelines. You know what I'm saying? Like all of this stuff is happening from within the organization, whether there's security or not, you know, whether that ref bill gets paid or not, all of it is happening internally. So, there has to be some kind of contingency, some kind of policy plan that's agreed upon between the refs and the leagues where if there's a situation where the refs feel uncomfortable or they feel unsafe, that there's something that they can do that's standard, that's business as usual, and then the game can be resumed. And that might come at the cost of the team, right? The organization might have to pay the refs extra money for those situations or keep the field or keep the lights on. And if not now, they're forfeiting their right to compete. You know what I'm saying? That might be a situation. The teams got to do a better job of having the right guys on the field, man, because you can't have guys on your team who can't hold their shit and not punch a ref in the face or not, throw a helmet, or not threaten a ref's life. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that as an athlete. You know what I'm saying? You never could do that at any level. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if he was 9 years old. When I was playing Pop Warner as a kid, I knew I couldn't do something like that. When I got to high school, I knew I couldn't do that. And in NCAA, you definitely can't do that. Like you can't even curse too much. I got kicked out of a game for being upset about my own play. You know what I'm saying? I kept getting upset. I was like, fuck, I missed that tap. Fuck, I missed that block. And I did it one more time. I said, and the ref threw me out the game. He was like, that's it, enough. You know what I'm saying? And that was a wake-up call for me. But at every level that you play at, you can't do that, man. You can't just be wild and just do whatever you want to do. It's my son in the background. But it's gonna take a concerted effort from everybody because the same thing with the guys who have their baby mamas, and they friends or whatever in the crowd. You can't be attacking, the refs either. Like y'all can't be going at the ref's neck because he made a crazy call that you didn't agree with. Like that don't work, man. That don't work. So we're gonna have to all come together as a community. And as a community, we're gonna have to say that we love this sport so much that we want to see it be successful. Um, and in that case, we're gonna have to make a change because at the end of the day, we might say what we want to say about these refs being soft and all of that. But imagine you Getting a call from your buddy and he says, "Yo, you want to make some extra money? I know you got your referee's license, blah blah blah." And you go down thinking you're just gonna have a nice, easy little light day on the football field, being a part of the game that you love, and the next thing you know, you're getting sucker punched because you threw the flag. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not cool. It's not cool. So it's not cool when a game doesn't happen. And right now, from what I'm hearing, this problem extends past the particular leagues. People want to say, "Oh, that's like for the bad leagues." Nah, man, the Den right now, the Seminoles and the Delaware Tide, the Brooklyn Knowles and the Tide, they're not gonna play their game, and it's a referee issue. There's no real details on what happened. I know both teams were trying to make it happen, and the refs apparently in Delaware have a situation going on where they're refusing to show up at the game, from what I'm understanding. But that's a problem. It's a very serious problem for our level because you don't see that happen in the NCAA. You don't see the Alabama Crimson Tide supposed to play Wake Forest and the game gets canceled because they can't get a ref crew on the field. Like, and it's that expectation that once the expectation level drops, it's hard to get it back. You know what I'm saying? If you saw just a terrible product come out of, you know, maybe the Sun Belt Conference in the NCAA, Texas State versus SMU, and it was just terrible. The commentators were terrible, and the referees didn't show up until they was an hour in, and one team had multiple color helmets. Like, you would never watch another Sun Belt game. You would never watch it, and then you would be able to understand why nobody respects the Sun Belt. And you would understand why the Sun Belt would close if the Sun Belt closed operations and all those teams became independent. You would understand it. So you got to understand it at this level too. Guys got to stop using the fact that we pay to play as an excuse to not be professional. Because at the end of the day, we only pay to play because guys are unprofessional. There was a point in time where semi-pro football was not called semi-pro; it was called minor league football. It was the same thing that we're doing now, but guys got paid to do it, and it was standard issue that guys got paid to do it. It was once that the bar got lowered, that it became more acceptable in a way to have these guys that just don't really respect what they're doing, and then everything got ruined after that. You know what I'm saying? And I definitely want to have a couple guys that I know that have played in that era come on and just kind of have some words about it because we should be able to get back to there. I mean, the coaches put a lot of time in. The players, I know some players, man. Shout out to Armani Beasley. Shout out to Rams Bleezy. You know, shout out to Ricardo because I know there's a lot of guys. Also, the Wave from the Falcons. Like, I can go on and on. There's a lot of dudes that put the time in. Like, they in the gym and they watching the tape and they working on their technique and they put in as much time as a professional athlete does to this. And the coaches, at least on my team, I know for sure they're meeting 2, 3 times a week. They're on the phone constantly. I'm on the phone with them. They're on the phone with each other. They're doing Zooms. They're setting everything up. They're making sure everything's taken care of. Like, we can be compensated for this. We should be compensated for this with all the effort, the fact that you're putting your body on the line every week. You know what I'm saying? At the very least, insurance should be taken care of for the players and things like that. And we can get there, but we all got to come together. And this is a big problem right now. If we continue with this referee problem the way it is, we might not have the sport anymore the way that we know it. And that takes me to the last, section talking about the end of semi-pro. So it's two different angles that I wanted to talk about when we talk about the end of semi-pro, right? The first angle is exactly kind of like a piggyback off what we were just talking about. What happens when you can't get no more fields? Everybody has to use the same 3 fields. And what happens when no more ref crews want to show up to the games? You can only get a ref crew from one particular place, and they only have but so many refs. And what happens when things just get too expensive? and teams just can't afford to be teams anymore. What happens when we start having a breakdown of leagues? Leagues start imploding mid-season and they fall apart. We no longer have that league, 3 weeks in. And what happens when there's no code of honor? You know, you got players doing triple duty. They're playing for three different teams and they're not giving any team their best effort. You know what I'm saying? And they show up and those same guys that you big name guys that you depend on to make the big catch, he ain't making the big catch because he worn the hell out. Because he done played 20 games in 4 weeks. What happens when we get to a place where the system, because it's so lawless and it's so open, it starts to kill itself? And I'm honestly calling it right now that we starting to see a shift. And here's the second angle. The second angle is I don't think the sport at this level will end. The adult, you know, um, semi not professional but professional level, the amateur level of the sport. I don't think that'll ever end. But what I will think is going to happen is that you're going to see a huge division where you truly have semi-pro football and you truly have an amateur level of football. You're going to see all the amateur level teams, all the teams that run their organizations the right way, that are competitive, that are willing to travel, that get guys on the field 6 months before the season starts. You're going to see all those teams kind of clump together because they all like-minded, right? They're all after sponsors. They're all after having teams that run by themselves. So they have a chain of command and they have staff and they're bringing money into the program and they're making money from the program. And the players are getting better every year and they're recruiting and all of that. They're like minded in that way. And then the last thing is those are the kinds of teams that they don't accept any less. They don't accept anything less than the best because they don't bring anything less than the best, you know? And I could just speak from, the CT Falcons perspective. Like, we look for the league that is going to allow us to play at the highest level with the least concern. You know what I'm saying? So we want to play the best talent, and we also don't want to worry about if we have a game every week. We don't want to worry about teams dropping out, and now we got to replace games because we always chasing that national title. Like, if at this level, if you lose a game because of forfeit, well, if you win a game because of forfeit, right? That's not so much a problem. But if you win another game because of forfeit, you have a problem now. You can't you can't have more than one forfeit win, and you have to have a certain amount of wins. And because it's in the spring, it's more so of a problem than the fall. But imagine I skipped ahead, but imagine not having enough time to make up games, and you got a bunch of forfeit wins. Like, that could be a problem. So the Falcons really look for leagues that have their shit together, for lack of better words. You know what I'm saying? And in return, the Falcons bring a program that has its shit together, has beautiful home field. Um, we work to get buses for every game. We don't always take the bus. Sometimes guys, just have their own stuff going on. Everybody wants to travel separately. But we show up everywhere. We showed up in Virginia. I've been with this team for 3 years, going on 4 years, and every year we've gone down to Virginia or we've gone somewhere else. We show up in New York, we show up in New Hampshire, we show up in Maine. It really doesn't matter. We're gonna show up. You know what I'm saying? We might not show up with 60, but we'll show up with at least 30. And that is a hell of a feat. That is a commendable thing. And when you have a program that can do that, you know what I'm saying, the program depends on the league to be able to support that. And that goes for every league. I remember a year or two ago, a big conversation was that the Brooklyn Seminoles, could not find a league that could stay together with them being in it. Because every league that they got into, they would destroy the league. They would win every game by 30 or plus points. They would, be a shoe in for the championship game. They would get there and they would blow the team out in the championship game. they go off 10-0 to play in the national championship, and it was damn near every single year. And what started to happen was teams would, play in the league or sign up for the league and then drop out. And as soon as the Brooklyn Seminoles got into the league, everybody scatters, everybody runs away. Nobody wanted to be in the league, and everybody says, "Oh, we not ducking competition, this and that." But the truth is, if you put together what you think is a quality team and you go, "All right, this is my year," and then the Brooklyn Seminoles shows up in your league, you got some motivation to go next door because this might be the only year that I get with this roster that I think can succeed. And you're gonna put me up against one of the best teams in the country. I don't want to do it. So the Knowles kind of have the same problem. Luckily for the Eagles, the TFL is probably not going anywhere. Um, but if the Eagles continue to win the way that they have been, they might end up with the same situation where they might create a TFL part two, and nobody wants to play in the TFL part one with the Eagles. And it takes serious coordination. It takes a hell of a salesman. And it takes somebody who is really passionate to run a league in such a way to keep it together, to keep it functioning. Because you got to be able to convince the team owners to work together. You got to be passionate about the product that you put out and keeping it all together, and continuing to have the same level of output from the preseason all the way to the championship game. You know what I'm saying? I'll never forget. I will never ever forget making it to the championship game my first year in the IFA with the Falcons, and we get to the freaking championship field, and we're literally lifting turf out of the ground, like literally grabbing 5-yard chunks of turf and just picking it up and looking at concrete underneath it like, damn, this gonna hurt. Like, this is not gonna be a fun game. You know what I'm saying? Um, and it's not. I don't think it's because. All right, I'm being politically correct. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's because the people who run the IFA. We know who they are: Dave Patterson, and Mason Morgan. I don't think it's because they don't really care about the IFA. I think it's because they didn't do enough due diligence, because I don't think they were passionate enough, because there's a lot to that situation. But when you got teams in the league that you own and none of the teams that you own make it, um, it's got to leave a sour taste in your mouth. It has to. So I think it got to a point where they just lost the passion in that moment, and they set us up with a field, and they never really did the due diligence to find out if that was really the type of place that they want to have be the representation of their championship game. You know what I'm saying? And it goes deeper than that, because I've always said that a championship game should be held at the highest possible facility available to you. So, prime example, the New York Patriots play at SUNY Maritime. It's an NCAA facility. That's the kind of place that you should be having a championship game. It should be at, it should be at a Hofstra. It should be at a UConn. It should be, at a Boston College, or maybe a Holy Trinity, which is a beautiful field out in Massachusetts. It should be at a Springfield College. If you're in Jersey, it should be at, a Rutgers if you can afford to get there. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it takes, because even at the high school level, that's how it goes. You know what I'm saying? At the high school level in New York, they played at the Dome in Syracuse. You know what I'm saying? I played in the CHSSA, the CHSAA, sorry, Catholic High School League, and we played at Hofstra for years until they switched over, and Hofstra got rid of the football team, and then we played at Nassau, which was right next door at Mitchell Field, Mitchell Complex, which is a beautiful field. But why is it that here at the minor league level we playing at these grass fields that haven't been maintained or kept, or it's just terrible. It's just terrible. And I think that's the issues that the league commissioners, the officials, they have to deal with. And it takes an extreme passion to have to do that. Um, and all of this I think is solved when you have income. At the end of the day, money rules the world. We know that. We know that. So if you have you know, league commissioners and league officials on payroll and it's a job that they're doing, they're obviously going to do their job a lot better because they want to keep that salary. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with players. If you tell a player, listen, man, you're gonna get $500, but you got to get on the field and you got to, not get a penalty and you got to not curse anybody out and you got to not drink and you got to do all this stuff. The guy is gonna not drink. And he's not gonna curse. And he's not gonna fight because he's getting paid. You know what I'm saying? The minute that you take that money away, the guy's gonna go, man, screw you. I pay to be here. So like, screw you. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. You know what I'm saying? Like, it very much is a paradox in a way because the thing that will solve the problem is also the thing that you know it gets solved when you do the right thing. That is just so crazy. It falls on top of each other. The players have to do better, but the motivation for the players to do better is maybe income and maybe playing at a higher level. But in order to play at a higher level, you need everybody to respect this level or play more. But that won't happen until the players are more respectful themselves and the leagues do a better job. And it's tough. At the end of the day, it's the reason why I started the podcast because there's just kind of stuff that we need to talk about and guys need to be more aware of it. Like, dude, it's going to take all of us, not just one of us, not just a couple of us. It's going to take more than this podcast. It's going to take more than the Three Bleezy show. It's going to take more than a couple guys just getting online and just talking shit. It's going to take more than one league. The Den can't be the only league. It's going to take a concerted effort by everybody to do better. Because if not, the sport at the level that we play is not going to survive. It won't survive. Eventually, you're going to run out of fields. It's going to be enough fields and enough counties that say no, that eventually you're going to run out of fields. And eventually, all the refs are going to say no. And they're going to band together. And eventually, you're going to get priced out. And I tell you, if you don't know, I'm going to give you some game. Right now, football as a whole is under attack by soccer. The entire country, football is under attack by youth soccer. So if we don't get it together soon and start to make some real solid relationships, I'm talking about commissioners and the mayor's office. I'm talking about team owners and their local towns, mayor's office, their local towns, you know, um, high school facilities, being a part of the youth programs. If we don't really start shaking some hands and really talking to people, we're gonna lose our sport. We're gonna lose our sport, and we're gonna be at home watching the NFL, talking about what we used to do in high school, and not being able to get out there and prove it anymore. Because we losing the refs, you know, pretty soon we're gonna start losing the fields, and pretty soon we're gonna start losing leagues. And when you start losing leagues, it's just gonna be ain't really gonna be much left. You know what I'm saying? So it was nice to get out here and chop it up with you guys. You know what I'm saying? Spent about 40 minutes just chopping it up with y'all, just having a conversation. I appreciate everybody who tapped in. Listen, if you want to join the show, just hit me up, man. Just DM me on Facebook and send me a message on YouTube, wherever you see this. Hopefully next week we get, the Bleezy himself, Christian Ramsey, back on the show. That'd be cool. It's a kind of different dynamic when I had a co-host here, man. As you can see, we're gonna start bringing back, the old way of doing the show where we have the visuals going for you guys. Um, so this is how we're gonna end the show. We're gonna talk a little bit about the IFA. This did not age well. I put out the 2023 Independent Football Association rankings. I did the preseason rankings. You know what I'm saying? I usually do the preseason rankings every year. I just thought that maybe, if um I don't know, maybe if I just put out these preseason rankings, that it would motivate some people to want to come out and see the games. And if people came out and saw the games, then maybe some teams would start making some more money, and it would help the league as a whole, right? Um, so I started doing these rankings, man, and I did them this year, and we had beat the Falcons had beat the Warhawks, who was the reigning champs, and the Warhawks were supposed to play the Chargers. Refs didn't show up, so they got an asterisk next to their name. And then the Jets never showed up to play a game. The East Boston Jets, they supposedly had like 14 guys on their roster and unconfirmed, and now it's confirmed, but it's still unconfirmed. The Smash went down and got into a fight. They have a tumultuous history with fighting and guns being pulled at games, and they really can't play football up north, so they starting to have to branch out. They get into a fight against the Dolphins. The Crusaders show up and play the Falcons, and we beat them pretty bad. And then the Norsemen, they had a game against the Cardinals, who used to be in the IFA, who took off to the ECFL, who had their inaugural spring season, which is starting this weekend. But this is why it didn't age well, because the Warhawks playing the Chargers game not happening because the refs turned into the Warhawks leaving the IFA. And when the Warhawks left, um, the Norsemen left. And when the Norsemen left, the Chargers left the IFA, but they don't quite have a home yet, from what I'm hearing. They supposedly going to the ECFL, but that's not completely finished. And then the Jets officially, unofficially don't exist anymore. So that they also took the Syracuse Smash, because the Smash, I guess they're so north, even though they're in New York, they're so north they would consider it a part of the Northern Conference. So I guess they just said, you know what, we're gonna go with the Warhawks. Um, that left the Crusaders, the New York Patriots, and Falcons in the league. And that's it. So this did not age well. um, I don't know what to say, man. Like, I thought the IFA was a hell of a league. I thought it had the right bones. It had the right makeup for what a minor league football league should look like. The TFL is very incubated. The teams are all from the same area generally. The IFA, damn near every team is from somewhere else. Like, the Patriots are in New York, the Crusaders are in New York, but the Patriots are in the Bronx and the Crusaders are in South Brooklyn, deep in Brooklyn. They are from where they play, from where the Patriots play to where the Crusaders play is easily an hour, 45 to an hour. You know what I'm saying? And we talking about just regular driving. We're not even talking about like rush hour traffic in New York. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then when you look at, the Syracuse Smash, if you want to consider them in the South, Syracuse is obviously hours and hours away, but still in New York. And then the CT Falcons was in the South as well. And the Connecticut Falcons are, easily an hour and a half from, the Patriots, and 2 hours away from the Crusaders. When you look in the North, obviously Maine from Boston, and then the Seacoast Warhawks are in New Hampshire. So from New Hampshire to Boston, New Hampshire to Maine, everybody's traveling to each other. Syracuse obviously is pretty far away. When the Cardinals was in the league, they was also in the Boston area. So everybody pretty much had to travel to each other. So when you think about being able to recruit, when you talk about North versus South, division versus division, you start talking about rivalries. I thought IFA really had great bones. They really had the right makeup for this league to be really super competitive, for it to have some really high stakes, um, and for it to really grow. and to really become something. Because if you added another 4 teams to the north and another 4 teams to the south, you got 4 divisions, 2 conferences. Um, you had a 3-week playoff system where divisions could battle it out, conferences could battle it out, and then you had this big game at the end, you know, for the bragging rights for the whole enchilada. For it to break down to where it is now, just 3 teams, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. And I don't really know where we go from here. You know what I'm saying? Because the Den, MLF Den, is a great league, but we saw this same thing happen with all of the people and all the teams that are now participating in the Den. A year ago, that was the NEAFL. And there was so much hype and there was so many great teams and it had the bones. It had been around for some time, just like the IFA, and it had the bones, it had the makeup to continue to grow. It had the bones to make it all the way to New York and pull in some of those New York teams. And now you have the Northern New Jersey with the New York, and then you got the Southern New Jersey, Philly with the Delaware, and you got this huge league. And the Den comes out, and now that league has 4 teams in it. I think 5 teams in it. 3 of the teams are just not very good. They're not very competitive. 2 of the teams are extremely good, but it's hard to stay sharp when you're not going up against other good teams. Um, so we'll see if they ever cross paths with another top tier team, how they fare. And I think that leads into that conversation of semi-pro is in trouble because if every time we get a league that builds out to be really good, the IFA has good bones. It looks like it's going to be a great league. It starts competing with the TFL. Historically, it's been around forever. Has national championships in it. Has some of the top 20 teams in the country in it. Has some historical names in it. Um, when you look at, the NEAFL had been around for 7, I think 8 years at this point. Had national ranking teams in it, top 10 teams. Um, had some teams that was competing for a national championship. Had some Division 1 talent in there, some ex NFL, some arena talent. You get these big leagues, and then the very next year they're completely falling apart. They're completely not what they used to be. That's a problem. That's a problem because as a fan, I can't depend on anything. I can't say I'm a fan of that NEAFL league because the very next year, that league is terrible and it's not fun to watch. I can't say I'm a fan of that IFA league and they come into my city this week because mid-season the IFA fell apart. I can't say I'm a fan of that MLF league because you go, which MLF league? The Den, the TV league, the Elite League, the Travel League? Which MLF league? You know, we got a lot of problems right now, y'all, and we really have to come together to solve them. And I'm gonna put this out now because this is gonna be the main topic for next week's show. I am seriously starting to do some investigation into what it would take to have a minor league football players association that is attached to the NFLPA. It has real board members, maybe, that are currently a part of the NFLPA. Um, and it's a system where the players can start to talk about compensation. The players can start to take power into their own hands. The players can start to dictate what league, is the league. Which league are we playing in? Which league is the league that's going to survive? Where should the team owners be looking to be? Because right now, with the power being in the team owners' hands, it's backwards. It's almost just like how our country is right now. You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like we forgot what a democracy really is. You know what I'm saying? And we almost depend on that republic side, because you got all these players who really control the game. The players are the ones that really control the game, but it's the two or three guys that are owning the team or coaching the team that are dictating what's happening. And you got a situation like in the IFA where a team is leaving and half their players disagree. Half their players don't want the team to leave. You got a situation where, you know, the power is going to people who shouldn't necessarily be making those kinds of decisions. And they're doing so in a totalitarian way. They just like, all right, it's my team, so I'm just going to do this. And it's a part of the problem. So a players association is seriously in the works. We're seriously talking about it. Um, and we're gonna get into the details of how that all probably look, next week. And again, I'm gonna try to get some guys on the show. I'm gonna try to get, a really good friend of mine who played in the NFL. Um, shoot, I got two of them. I got two really good friends who played in the NFL and also play with me. You know, I'm gonna try to get the Bleezy back on the show. See if we can get the other Bleezy on the show too. Shoot, see if we can get Steph to come out the woodworks. You know what I'm saying. See if we can get Honcho to get on the show. See if we can get some guys and really chop it up about what it would look like, what it would take, and would that even be beneficial? Would that even be a part of solving and fixing the problems that we got right now? So that's all I got for y'all tonight, man. Listen, for everybody that checked it out, that tuned in, I appreciate y'all. You know, um, I had a little situation where I couldn't fix um, the whole download and streaming to YouTube situation. I had a little bit of an error that got fixed. So we're gonna post the show to YouTube. It'll be there for you to view. We'll be back next Friday. Um, I'm gonna go celebrate my son's birthday. He's turning 4. I heard him banging on the door earlier. Um, guys, enjoy your weekend. There's a lot of games going on. Go to Facebook. If you look at the rankings on my Facebook, um, each of the leagues has a website that you could go to. Um, I'm just gonna share my screen with you guys real quick so y'all can see what's going on. Like this is the ECFL website right here. What I'm saying? All the games that's coming up. You got the CT Lightning versus the Bruins, Panthers versus the Badgers. That's tomorrow. Sullivan High School, that's right there in Connecticut, Southern Connecticut, and Daly Field is out in the Boston area in Massachusetts. Um, the Warhawks are in the league now, but the Crusaders are playing the Chargers and West Roxbury Academy. That's out in Massachusetts as well. And the Norsemen playing the Falcons tomorrow, 7 p.m. at Veterans Memorial, West Haven. So you got everything that you need there. You know what I'm saying? You can go to the Den. Let's see if we can get the Den's website up. Yeah, so we got the Den's website up. So April 15th, you got all the games right here. Central Penn Hitman versus the Unit. Obviously, the Knowles and the tie game is canceled. That's not updated here, but it gives you the addresses, it gives you the time. Everything's there. Support the system, man. Support the system. It's some really talented football players, some really good organizations. Thousands of hours of manpower and work goes into this. Go out and support your local teams. All right. I appreciate you guys for your time tonight. I will see you next week, and I'll see you at the 50. Peace out.